In today's video, we're going to be talking about the million or maybe even billion-dollar question, and that is, when is the stock market going to stop tanking? Because right now, as we can see, there is really no end. Yesterday, we had a little bit of a tank at the beginning of the day, and then it recovered back. As of right now, at the time of making this video, the stock market is once again tanking. And right now, I'm going to really break down a few things that I look at to see when the stock market turns back around. First, however, I'm going to be looking at TD stock because this is something that I invested a lot of money in. And whenever a stock is tanking, literally, like, this is 1%, but this was well over $100 just a few days ago. In fact, the 52-week range was $104, and now it's at 98. So, what is going on? Well, we are about 30 minutes into the stock session, or stock trading session, and only 10% of the average volume has gone through. This is concerning. Anytime that we're seeing the market go down huge or an individual stock go down huge, we want to see huge volume to the downside to know when it's going to be a potential turnaround. We can do the exact same thing when it comes to the S&P 500. And we can see here it's just over 10% of volume. And whenever it's a day that week, or what I call capitulation, which is basically a day where everyone says, I'm done, I'm finished with the market, I am no longer investing any money, sell. And those are the days that you want to buy in. Right now, with only a little bit of volume, and I'm recording this about an hour after recording the screenshots, so let's just check really quickly. And we're still down at the exact same amount at 11:15, and guess what? The volume is only 800,000 shares. So 800,000 shares, so that's basically another 380,000 shares traded since 10 o'clock, and it's now basically an hour later. What I'm trying to get to is the capitulation day, the day where this will probably turn around, is the day where the average volume is going to be so highly surpassed by the daily volume that it will show us that basically there has been a market switch. As of right now, we are waiting on the Fed to be able to release if they're going to be raising interest rates earlier rather than later. We're also looking at Russia and China because apparently they want to start wars with nations that they want to take over, and both of which the United States apparently will back, hopefully. So at this point in time, I can understand why the stock market's going down with essentially average volume. There is really no good news coming into the future. There's Netflix and Peloton with terrible earnings, and they were having fantastic earnings during the pandemic, which is no surprise. And I really don't understand why people are worried about earnings power into the future, because those are two companies that would have absolutely benefited from the pandemic. However, when we're looking at what's happening right now, they say on the news that, it's because of pricing power and earnings power, and there might not be enough earnings. Well, that's true. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be in trouble right now. The Americans are a little bit better off than the Canadians. The Canadians just came out of their 4th or 5th or 6th, I don't know how many lockdowns we've had at this point in time, and Canadians are having a lot of issues. At first, we were getting the CERB and people were staying at home, so they were saving, or at least not having to spend as much money on gas. And they were putting a lot of that money apparently into paying off debts, which is fantastic. But now this past little lockdown that we had, we are now in a worse shape than we were before the pandemic. The reason being is anybody who lost their jobs. So personal trainers. I wasn't affected because I do YouTube, but other personal trainers. And then also anybody who was in a store that may have been locked down, or in a restaurant, or whatever it may be. Those people only got $300 a week, and that $300 a week was taxed apparently. which means that they're really only getting maybe $250, $260 a week, which to some people around the world may sound like a lot of money. $1,000 a month is a good amount of money in some areas. But in Canada, rent here in Hamilton averages like $1,800 or $1,900 a month. So how are those people going to be paying rent, let alone their food that has soared over 5%? That's the issues that we're having in Canada. The Americans are having the issue with the potential war with Russia and China, which neither war would look any good. And then they're also worried about in Canada and the United States and around the world, the federal government's raising the interest rate because they've spent too much money to fight a pandemic that they had no chance of winning. So because of that, I don't see any turnaround for the market anytime soon unless we have just one hell of a bad day where it drops probably a good 10% in a single day. We've seen that before with massive volume, and then the next day it'll start to recover back. But until that day happens where it's just probably 2, 3, or even 4 times the average volume to the downside, until that day happens, I don't think the stock market is going to turn around. I think this downtrend is going to stay here for at least another couple of days, maybe even a week or two. It's not looking good. However, I'm not saying to sell because most of us are probably in the red anyways from our recent trades that we've made since the summer. So at this point, you might as well just wait, hold the stocks because they're paying you a dividend anyways, as long as it's a solid company like BMO or another Canadian bank or a Canadian company that's really not affected by any of this, like a railway, for example, then this could be very beneficial to just hold the dividends, keep on buying in while it's low, but I wouldn't be buying in just yet. I want to see a big volume day to the downside to actually start buying in. This is my thoughts. I want to know what your thoughts are. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.